law which spells out all this. So I won't go into details on this. The next thing is very important. Guide the creation of a shared vision. You know, everyone in a group, whether it is 4 or 40,000, wants to feel that they have contributed to what the company is trying to do. Shared vision. And ultimately, if you are a skillful negotiator, ultimately you will get your own way. But make it sound and feel as if it is their way. That is the trick. Shared vision. So when I realized that even after 80 years that time, we had no vision statement, I asked all the employees, not just the officers, to give, about 400 of them they gave what our vision should be. Some had written 4-page letters on the vision, some just one letter, one word. So we debated that. It took us about 2-3 months. And it requires, shall we say, a very independent and clear thinking, unfettered. One day I was flying, I remember, from Jamshedpur to Chennai, and 40,000 feet over the ground, I said, it's time to now finally put down the vision. And it took me just 20 minutes to write 4 sentences, which became the vision of Tata Steel. And I presented that to the workers, and they all felt, because there was something for everybody in that. Something for everyone. I don't have that statement here. Probably it's in one of those other talks, but everyone accepted it. And then at the last point of the vision, I remember that where Tata Steel aspires to go, others will follow. And I think that, shall we say, was the clincher. People felt that they were number one. And because they felt they were number one, they did become number one. And this is the power which the CEO has to light. And at the same time, I did not say that I have written this vision. I had presented it, it's your vision. So everyone felt that nobody wants to be dictated to or being led by the nose. Even if he is the lowermost person in the hierarchy, he wants to feel that he has contributed something to the company's future. And there is nothing that you lose or you become poorer by giving away credit. Please remember, when as you go higher in hierarchy, give credit. Credit is free, not falsely. Don't say that, oh, you are great, when you think in your mind that he's an idiot. Be honest, but give away credit free. Don't make it say that this is my idea. Make it feel that it is their idea. And then they will respond. And the power of compounding 40,000 people as against one person's thoughts is tremendous. It is orders of magnitude higher. So everyone then strives to become that number one. Yes, you put a target before them. It obviously involves change. And you then become the main change agent. If you want them to reduce costs, this is one thing which I was very proud to say, reduce your own, shall we say, I'll give you one example. We still have a system whereby executives can change cars every 3 years for the senior people and maybe every 6 years for the more junior people. I inherited a car, a good one, from my predecessor, and I used the same one for 15 years. I did not change it. It was perfectly, of course, the company's garage was there to look after it. Finally, they told me that we have changed everything in the car excepting the shell. But it was the same car, same registration number, same color, same shape. And that was a feeling to make people feel that, look, if you don't need it, why spend it? And there are many such examples which I give, small things, without telling people to do the same. But once they see the chief executive doing it, many people feel obliged. Not only obliged, maybe think that this is a good idea, and they will do it. So take the responsibility of being the main change agent. Don't leave it for the next fellow, don't have the attitude that, well, it's okay for everybody, but not for me. I am the chief executive. Because you're the chief executive, you have to implement the change first. Have you ever known or have you ever felt comfortable going to a doctor who smokes a lot, drinks a lot, is obese, has high blood pressure, and you ask him to give you a prescription for good health? Even if he did, you would not follow it. So you have to live what you want the others to be. This is very important for chief executives. The next one, which is on the next page now. Nowadays, particularly with this facility for communication, during my time as chief executive, which ended in 2001, this phone, I think, had just come in, and certainly there was no facility for the internet, and things like Hotmail and others were not there. So to communicate, I had to go and physically, and I still feel that is the best way. When you look at a person straight in the eye or give him a warm handshake, the message that you convey is far better than seeing it as an email or as an SMS. And though Tata Steel was spread out, I used to utilize at least 50 half days per year to go and speak to what are known as joint departmental councils in TISCO. There are about 50 of them, and I would spend one half day with each of them. Just listen to them, along with my union bosses also. And the people would not say, if I may comment without being misunderstood, they would not say anything revolutionary. Sometimes a brilliant thing would come up. Most times it was grumbles, my grade is not good, my house roof is leaking and things like that. But you have to listen to them and give them the assurance that, well, it may not be so today, but tomorrow you will find it a bit different. I'll give you one example since I mentioned house roofs. They said that what you're trying to do, reduce the numbers, taking away jobs, all that is fine. But the roofs of my housing, and people, Tata Steel had housed all its employees all over India, is leaking badly. So I asked the housing department to carry out a survey, and they found out that there was something like 7,000 houses whose roofs had not been repaired, including, by the way, my own. Once part of my house was leaking. And I said, how much would it cost? The figure was in crores, and we would have taken several years to reach that under our normal maintenance budget. And by the time we finished, more would be in the pipeline. So I said, okay, once again, one-time pain. I sanctioned several crores of rupees and told those people that, look, in 1 year, you employ whoever you want, but in 1 year, all those complaints about leaking roofs should go. And we did it. You know, we did it where people understood that, look, once we put our mind to it, cost has never been a problem in, shall we say, bringing about improvements. It is the mind. It is the mindset more than the mind. The mind is something organic. The mindset is something which we accepted till recently, I would say. Oh, India will not have the necessary quality. We will have jugaad. You know, somehow or the other keep the thing going. Car, refrigerator, manufacturing facility, whatever. Jugaad. Now I see that under the new Prime Minister and various other leaders, we are saying, to hell with jugaad. We want to improve permanently. And this is the attitude we want. I have found that money is never a constraint. Creativity, thinking, those are the constraints. So once we can think a problem through, you will always be able to succeed. And of course, communications now, I've written there two-way. It's not necessarily like you all are just listening to me. It's a one-way communication. I don't know whether you like it or not, but you're going to suffer it for another few minutes. Two-way communication, giving the people to express their views. I used to have meetings with my officers, 2,000 people in a bigger auditorium than this. And everyone was free to say what they want. They could complain against their boss under one condition, that if they made a frivolous, incorrect complaint, which I found out after my investigation, I would come at the next meeting and fire them publicly. Because they made complaints publicly, the boss was made to look small in front of 2,000 people. I, in turn, would come back next time and say that what you told was not true, you lied. This is the correct position. And make that man feel small, once again, in front of the same 2,000 people. So that cut out the frivolity from their complaints. The next point is something which we have now taken as a religion: create opportunities for innovations in the rank and file. We appointed a consultant at the start of our rejuvenation exercise. That was McKinsey's. We appointed them, and they went to all the departments, talked to the junior people, senior people, and usually the bosses say, "Oh, I tried this thing out 15 years ago. It didn't work." When we put it, I said, "Doesn't matter. Put it down. Put it down as a suggestion." And then the McKinseys went through these suggestions for over 6 months, and we came up with a set of improvements, which in fact, as I mentioned, helped us to become the lowest cost producer of steel in the world. Because it is the human mind does not, shall we say, belong only to the bosses. The ingenuity belongs to the people lower down. And I had a practice that if somebody did something exceptional, I would reward him on the spot. Things which happen in the plant, the chief engineers cannot put together. And at the same time share the benefits openly. I remember there was one time when one of our largest blast furnaces, I don't know to become metallurgist here, but blast furnace is something which makes iron. And our largest one had stopped charging in a night. It has to be fed from the bottom. So there is what is known as a skip which goes up and feeds the material into the furnace. That stopped working. And for the next 2 days, all our top engineers and blast furnaces and throughout the plant came out to get this thing working, and they didn't succeed. Finally, on a Monday morning, a gentleman who was associated with the blast furnaces, but who for the weekend had taken off, and we couldn't contact him, he came back and he said, "Oh, that." And he went behind this phalanx of electronic instruments and so on, did something which we did not know what, and the bloody thing started working again. And everyone clapped, hug him, shook his hands, and I just said, "Come to my office, Mr. whoever it was," at 11 o'clock that day. So he came to my office at 11 o'clock, looking very smug, knowing of my reputation of rewarding people on the spot, expecting a big reward. I fired him. I fired him for not sharing his knowledge with others. Because as a team, we will succeed. Team, T-E-A-M. Together, everyone achieves more. He did not show that team spirit. I fired him, and he, in fact, within a few weeks, he left the organization. We don't want individualists now. The days of Sir Isaac Newton and people like him are gone. We now live in teams, and we have to succeed as a team. Maintain focus. This is something where I had to take something back. Maybe you all are too young, but the older generation may remember that we had a slogan at one time: "We also make steel." It was a very popular one. Everyone in the country appreciated it. And it also made us bankrupt. Because we went into so many different things: fish, paints, cement, which was not our business, but we ventured into those things. And I remember after I became managing director, I went to Kochi, and there they showed me a room full of awards, right from the President of India down to whoever it was in Kochi, room full of awards. that we have won this by doing something new. And I said, oh, very good. How much profit did you make? And they said, sorry, sir, we made a loss. So I said, doesn't matter. Try again, go on for one more year. 1 year later, I went back and asked them the same question. And the trophies were more, and so were the losses. I said, okay, now it's becoming a bit serious. 1 more year, you make a profit or you stop. Next year, still a bigger loss, I shut it down. You know, quite a few people were upset that this were earning us awards and so on. Yes, fine, awards is, if you win it along with profits, that's fine. But we are not here to operate at the cost of our shareholders and and ourselves. So I said, you cut out the also. We make steel. Not very popular, but very effective to make us profitable. So focus is very important. The next one is realign. That's a story I'm sure you all will appreciate, because it concerns with HRD, and I've got nothing against HRD people, though I consider that chief executive is the best HR person in the organization, right? Because he has it in his power to do what he wants to do. And one example that I can give you, how we get stymied, is I don't know how many of you know that Sourav Ganguly, the cricketer, was an employee of Tata Steel, and he became an employee much before he came on the international stage, because we believe in picking up youngsters and giving them the facility, not employ the Rahul Dravids and others, Shastri and so on, after they have become world famous. We have to develop people, not, shall we say, pick the best. Sourav was one of those who we had picked up before he was a young boy, 18 years old, played in the Ranji Trophy. That's about all. And then one day he rose through the cricketing world. And one day, I don't know how many of you remember, most of you probably will not, that we were playing Pakistan in Canada, because we could not play each other in our own countries. So we were playing Pakistan in Canada, and it was a 6-match series. And Sourav became the man of the match in 5 out of those 6 games. 4 times for batting and 1, surprisingly, for bowling. So we were all very impressed, and I called my HR people and said, show me where is he in the organization. And we have various grades, and they showed me somewhere almost near the bottom. I said that, look, this guy is better known certainly than me, maybe even more than Mr. Ratan Tata in the country, and you've got him down there, give him this promotion. So the HR people very, seriously said, sir, you can't do it. I said, what do you mean you can't do it? I'm the managing director, I believe I can do anything. He says, no, sir, we have to have specifications. For a good performance, you can promote him. For a very good performance, you can double promote him. But you're asking for 4 or 5 times that increase. We can't do it. It's not in us. I said, how do we make it? He said, there should be guidelines. So I said, okay, take down this guideline. That anyone in Tata Steel who wins 5 out of 6 matches as man of the match will also get this award in future. Of course, nobody has made it there yet. So you have to overcome some of these HR obstacles. And finally, the most important one, which I believe, is credibility. Credibility is something, you see a chief executive, even a prime minister, excuse my saying so, cannot achieve anything on his own unless he has the support of his team. The team may be 5, the team may be 5,000, the team may be 5 million. But unless he has the support of the team, he cannot achieve anything. And how does he get the support of the team? By credibility. People, when he's talking to them, people must think that yes, he's saying something which he is believing in. And tomorrow he will do something about what he's saying today. So that is credibility. It will take years to establish. It can go like that in the twinkle of an eye. And that is the credibility of the Tatas, that we will not do anything dishonest. That's another, by the way, lecture, so I won't get into that. That we won't do anything dishonest, whatever be the consequences. So credibility, to me, if I'm asked, what is one feature which the leader, which the managing director, CEO, whatever, must have? Of course, he must be clever, he must know his subject, he must be humane and all that. But credibility is the thing. Without credibility, people will not follow him. The whole of the French nation, the French army, did not move under Napoleon towards Moscow and suffered a horrible defeat if Napoleon didn't have the credibility. No one in India would have done what Mahatma Gandhi did if he didn't have credibility. And hopefully now, everyone in India will do what Mr. Narendra Modi is saying, because he's establishing that credibility. But as soon as he does something which is against that view, that he is not credible, he will become one more political leader rather than what he is now. And of course, lastly, preserve the core values of the Tatas and my own. That's a subject of another lecture, but it is very, very important. As I was writing these down and talking to you, it occurred to me that I had left out one very important aspect of CEO. And we will start our discussion. I think I've talked now for 35 minutes, which was the time specified by you. So we can now take questions. But firstly, I would like to know if anyone can spot my mistake or omission. One very important feature which the CEO must do, which I did not show on those slides. Thank you. Anyone has any suggestions regarding that one aspect which I have left out? Not intentionally, but by mistake, but I have very often discussed that with you. No guesses? Yeah, without trying to keep you under wasting any more time, if there is no much. Without wasting any time, the one very important thing which I think the CEO must do from the first day onwards is to train and see who is going to be his successor. That's a very important thing for the CEO. When I became the CEO, Mr. Tata, the senior Mr. Tata, that time he was still around, called me and said that, Jamshed, I want you to always keep 2 names in your pocket or in your purse, 2 names. You may change them, but you must have them at any one time. One is, who do you see 5 years, 10 years down the line? Who you will train and who you consider is worthy of position that you now occupy. And train him to be that person. And secondly, the second name should be one that if by chance, by misfortune, you step out of this building today and you are hit by a bus and go upstairs, who is going to lead the organization? So these 2 names you must keep in your pocket. You can keep on changing them as often as you want, but these must have for the benefit of the organization. So I'm totally against, I think you all may know, some organizations where they form search committees and the final finding is that no, our CEO must continue. Give him another 3-year extension. And then again another 3 years. That sort of CEO, in my opinion, is not serving the company. I had put up a thing which it was not my doing, but which I had seen in a newspaper, which said that it had a bucket of water and a hand, human hand. And it said that if you want to measure how your organization will miss you when you leave, do this. Put your hand in the water flash it around, swish it, create waves, bubbles, and then withdraw it. And the impression left in the water after you've lifted that hand is the measure by which your organization will miss you on your departure.
Now I request students to ask questions.
Good morning, sir. Extremely pleasure and delighted listening you. Sir, I'm a MBA student pursuing MBA in Energy and Infrastructure. Sir, I have a question regarding the organization restructuring in Tata Steels. Recently, it has only 5 job levels. So, entry level and the extreme to a top level like MD. So, you have only 3 job levels to promote. Don't you think, sir, this will impact the morale of employees?
No, they'll keep on getting more salary. But, when I took over, when I was talking about Saurav Ganguly, there were 15 levels.